What if you could experience war not from a safe distance, but from inside the smoke, the mud, the fear? The films and series on this list don't just show battles, they put you right there, questioning every decision, feeling every loss. From the frozen fjords of Norway to the suffocating heat of a Japanese prison camp, war storytelling has never felt more urgent or more alive than with these titles. Some of these productions will leave you breathless. Others will haunt you long after the credits roll. But before we begin the video, it would mean the world to me if you took a second to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. 11. Valiant One. A routine repair mission becomes a fight for survival when a US Army helicopter goes down, not in a training zone, not in friendly territory, but deep inside North Korea. No extraction plan. No reinforcements. The soldiers who walk away from the wreckage are tech specialists, not frontline fighters, and their commanding officer is badly injured. Every mile they need to cross is watched, patrolled, and lethal. Sergeant Edward Brockman has trained for combat, but nothing prepares you for enemy ground that wants to swallow you whole. With dwindling supplies and an alliance built on desperation rather than trust, the group moves through a landscape that punishes every mistake. The terrain is relentless frozen valleys, exposed ridgelines, checkpoints that appear with no warning, and the enemy is patient in a way that makes the silence feel dangerous. What gives this film its edge is not the firefights, but the pressure between them. These are people who were never supposed to be here. Every decision they make could be their last. Inspired by a real incident involving a Navy SEAL, this story asks a question the military rarely lets us sit with. What happens to the soldiers nobody sends rescue teams for? The narrow road to the deep north. 3 timelines, 1 broken man, and a love story that refuses to die even in the worst conditions humanity has ever manufactured. As a young doctor in the 1940s, Dorigo Evans falls for a woman he cannot have, and then loses her when the war swallows him whole. Captured and forced into brutal labor on the Thai-Burma Railway, he survives not through strength alone, but through the weight of a memory he carries like oxygen. Decades later, as a celebrated war hero navigating a life that feels hollow despite its accolades, Dorigo is still that same man trying to understand what it cost him to live. Jacob Elordi inhabits this role with devastating restraint, and director Justin Kurzel weaves the timelines together with the precision of someone who understands that trauma is not linear, it arrives unannounced. At the dinner table, in the middle of a speech, in the middle of a dream. Based on the Booker Prize-winning novel by Richard Flanagan, this miniseries holds a rare 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is not a war story in the conventional sense. It is a story about what war takes, and whether what remains is enough to call a life. 9. The Tiger. 5 men, 1 tank. And a mission that begins as an order and ends as a descent into something darker than war. The Eastern Front in 1943 is a place where the rules of survival have long replaced the rules of humanity. The crew of a German Tiger tank is sent deep behind enemy lines to recover a missing officer, a mission wrapped in secrecy and devoid of backup. As they push further east, fueled by the methamphetamine the Wehrmacht routinely distributed to its soldiers, the line between mission and madness begins to dissolve. Director Dennis Gansel draws unmistakable parallels to Apocalypse Now and Das Boot, using the claustrophobic interior of the tank as both a literal and psychological container. The men inside are not heroes, not monsters. They are soldiers caught between orders they cannot refuse, and a conscience that keeps finding them. The film tells a World War II story from the German point of view, with rare moral complexity, never excusing, but always examining. What it asks is uncomfortable. When the system you serve is evil, does following orders make you evil too? Amazon launched this original globally, and it has already sparked the kind of debate great war films are supposed to. 8. Truth and Treason. How much courage does it take to tell the truth when the truth is punishable by death? In Hamburg, 1941, a 16-year-old boy named Helmuth Hubener watches his world rearrange itself around a lie. The Nazi regime controls every broadcast, every newspaper, every whisper on the street. But one night, through static and risk, he discovers the BBC, and with it, a version of the war that Germany is not supposed to know. When his Jewish friend is arrested, something shifts inside him. He begins printing leaflets, distributing them quietly, defying a machine built specifically to crush that kind of defiance. This is not a story about soldiers or commanders or grand military strategy. It is about a teenager who looked at his country and decided that silence was a form of betrayal. Based on historical accounts of youth resistance in Nazi Germany, the film does not sanitize the cost of that decision. Noah Baird delivers a performance that earns every moment of tension the script builds around him. Streaming on Angel Studios in the US, this is the kind of war film that reminds you the battlefield is not always a field. Sometimes it is a printing press, a piece of paper, and a dangerous amount of belief in something better. 7. The Battle of Oslo. The 9th of April, 1940. Fog over the Oslofjord. And somewhere inside that fog, German warships are moving toward the Norwegian capital. Colonel Birger Eriksen is 64 years old. He commands an understaffed, aging fortress with equipment that belongs to a previous era, and he has received no clear orders from above. As unidentified vessels advance through the darkness, he faces a decision that will take about 30 seconds to make and define the rest of his life. Fire or hold. This Norwegian war film builds to that moment the way a held breath builds, with precision, with dread, and with the full understanding that a wrong call in either direction is catastrophic. What makes this story remarkable is not just the battle itself, but what comes after. The military tribunal that questioned a man who arguably saved his country. The dual timeline structure lets the film examine not only the night of combat, but the politics of memory and the way institutions treat inconvenient heroism. Bjørn Sundquist anchors the film with a performance of absolute authority. Note, this Norwegian film streams on Prime Video's Norwegian library. US viewers may need a VPN or to access it through digital rental platforms. 6. Words of War. She knew who was listening. She knew the risks. She reported anyway. Anna Politkovskaya spent years documenting what Russia's government did not want. Documented the atrocities of the Second Chechen War, the corruption that ran through the military, the human cost of a conflict the Kremlin preferred to describe as a security operation. She was poisoned. She was threatened. She was followed. And one day, she was shot dead in the elevator of her apartment building. This film, executive produced by Sean Penn and timed to World Press Freedom Day, traces her path from local correspondent to one of the most targeted journalists in the world. Maxine Peake brings a controlled ferocity to the role, capturing a woman who understood exactly what she was walking into and walked in anyway. The film is imperfect, as biopics often are, but its subject is not. In a time when press freedom is under pressure across multiple democracies, Politkovskaya's story carries a weight that extends well beyond its historical moment. The closing images of journalists killed in pursuit of truth will stay with you. This is the kind of film that doesn't need to be perfect to be important. 5. Prisoner of War. There is a moment in every captivity story where the prisoner has to decide what survival actually means and whether the version of himself willing to do what it takes is still himself at all. British RAF Wing Commander James Wright is shot down over the Philippines during the Battle of Bataan. What follows is not a POW story in the conventional sense. The Japanese officer commanding his camp has an obsession. He forces prisoners to fight, tournament style, for the entertainment of his men. Wright's training in Hong Kong makes him formidable. His situation makes him desperate, and his planning quiet, careful, conducted beneath every fight gives the film its second layer. This is not just a survival film. It is a film about using the enemy's own arena against him. Scott Adkins delivers the kind of performance that earns both the action sequences and the quieter moments between them. This film blends the war epic and the martial arts genre with enough historical grounding to make the stakes feel real. Sometimes the most defiant thing a prisoner can do is keep fighting and keep planning. 4. The World Will Tremble. Before the word Holocaust was widely used, before the scale of what was happening had a name, two men escaped a place where no one was supposed to escape from and tried to make the world understand what they had seen. Chełmno, 1942, the first operational Nazi extermination camp. Solomon and Michael are part of the Sonderkommando, prisoners forced to bury the dead, forced to be the last human beings those victims ever encountered. When they discover the full scope of what is happening, they make a decision that defies every calculation of survival. They will get out, or they will die trying, because someone has to tell the world. The film does not flinch. It does not look away from what the camp is, and what it does. But it also refuses to reduce its characters to victims. These are men with agency, with love for each other, with a desperate clarity of purpose. Oliver Jackson Cohen and Jeremy Neumark Jones carry the film with the kind of commitment the material demands. Currently trending on Netflix globally, this is one of the most important war films to hit the platform in recent memory. The world needed to know. These men made sure it did. 3. Nuremberg. What do you do when the man you're studying might be the most dangerous person you've ever met, and he's locked in a cell? American psychiatrist Douglas Kelly arrives in post-war Germany with a specific mandate: determine whether the Nazi leadership is mentally fit to stand trial. What he doesn't account for is Hermann Goering. Russell Crowe's performance as the former Reichsmarschall is unsettling in the most precise way, charming where it needs to be, calculating where it counts, and always, always a step ahead. Rami Malek plays Kelly with growing discomfort, a scientist who came to understand a monster and finds himself understanding too much. Michael Shannon anchors the film as the relentless chief prosecutor, a man who will not let history look away. Director James Vanderbilt frames the Nuremberg trials not as a foregone conclusion, but as a fragile construction, an attempt to build law around something that had previously operated outside it entirely. Based on the book The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, this film now streams on Netflix. The central question it poses does not have a comfortable answer. Can you understand evil without being changed by it? 2. Chief of War. Long before Hawaii became the place Americans go to escape the world, it was a world in conflict with itself. 4 kingdoms, 4 crowns. A cycle of war that had bled the islands for generations. And then there is Kayana, a warrior chief from Maui who has seen enough of what battle costs, who has left, and who is pulled back by forces larger than his own reluctance. Jason Momoa created this series, co-wrote it, stars in it, and drove it through a decade of development to get it made. The result is one of the most expensive Apple TV Plus productions to date, and one of the most visually stunning war epics in recent memory. It is also a story told from the inside with a predominantly Polynesian cast, with Hawaiian spoken as a living language, with cultural advisors whose genealogies trace directly back to the historical figures on screen. The comparisons to Shogun are inevitable and deserved. Both series take an unfamiliar corner of history and make it feel essential. Momoa learned Hawaiian for this role. The cast, most of whom were not fluent at the start, did the same. What emerges is 9 episodes of epic scope and intimate character. History, when it is told by the people who lived it, sounds completely different. 1. Warfare. There is no score, no soaring orchestral moment to tell you how to feel. No quiet scene where a soldier writes a letter home to put the violence in soft context. This film gives you none of that, and that's exactly what makes it unlike anything else on this list. Director Ray Mendoza, a U.S. Navy SEAL veteran, co-wrote and directed this film specifically to help his friend Elliot Miller recover memories of a mission in Iraq, a mission in which Miller suffered a traumatic brain injury. The film runs in real time. A platoon is in position inside an Iraqi family's home, conducting surveillance, when everything goes wrong. The evacuation of the wounded becomes the entire story. The cast underwent Navy SEAL-style training before shooting. The result is a film where the bodies move correctly, where decisions have consequences that feel immediate and true, and where the weight of carrying an injured man through a firefight is something you feel in your own chest. It earned a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes and now streams on HBO Max in the US. It does not glamorize. It does not heroize. It simply shows what happened, and in doing so, makes you feel the full cost of what war asks of the people who fight it. And that wraps up our list for today. 11 war films and series that refuse to take the easy road. Some will challenge you, some will break you a little. All of them are worth your time. Go ahead and leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new list. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below telling us which one you are watching first. We read every single one. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep watching great stories.